If you're going to university, just know that it's an incredibly important part of your life. You will learn a lot about yourself and about the world around you. You will probably find yourself at least 20 times before you graduate. And I understand that some people might find it scary to go into it without knowing what's coming ahead, because I certainly did go into it without knowing what was coming. And I wish there was a video like this that I watched back then. Hey guys, if you're new here, I'm Navya. I'm currently going into my second year at the University of Warwick, and this is all the advice that you will need before you start your first year of university. I'll be giving you all the advice I wish I'd known and the things that I could have done differently during my time in my first year. If you're new here, I politely request you to stick around and consider subscribing because it would help me out so much. Okay, now without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to be experiencing the moment you go into your first year of university is Freshers Week. Now this week is one of the most important weeks of your entire first year and can predict how your first year is going to go. Now because everyone going to university is new to this, you have to realize that everyone is trying to make friends. Everyone is in the same pool. So really put yourself out there and don't be shy, don't be scared, don't be afraid of people judging you because everyone is trying to make friends the same way you are. You're probably going to have the same conversation at least 50 times in your first week, and this will consist of meeting someone new, asking them what their name is, what course they do, what accommodation they live in, and that's pretty much it. And there is nothing wrong with going through this situation a million times. Please do not give up in the middle. Please don't get bored of it. This is how you will make friends. When I went into my first year of university, like I mentioned before, I had no preparation before it and I didn't know what questions to ask, but I just learned along as I went. And it worked out pretty well for me. So to enhance your Freshers Week experience, here are some questions that I think might be really useful to ask people in your first week. Something I think that can actually help build better relationships is to ask questions that aren't usually asked. For example, I've heard of people ask some really quirky questions, like ones I'll put up right here, but they do allow you to get to know people in a different way and maybe show a bit of your personality. Personally, I feel like those didn't really reflect me, so I didn't use any of them, but if you feel like they might help you, definitely do use them. Something I think that reflected me more that you can use is when people ask you what course you do, ask them to guess. You can do the same with lots of other questions as well. It definitely helps you understand what kind of a person they are and it will get conversation going while they're guessing. Every time you meet someone new, ask for their socials, because every time you meet someone interesting that you want to meet again, that will be a way of communicating. Trust me, I had like 100 new people on my Instagram after Freshers Week. Sorry about the rain, by the way. If you're a really private person, honestly just create a new Instagram account so you can give out to people, because if you actually want a social life, that's the way to do it. Here's something I also did in Freshers Week. If I found someone really interesting and I had a new thing to go to, I would just ask them if they wanted to join me. By that I mean I would literally just text them on Instagram saying, do you want to go with me to the societies fair? And if that feels way out of your comfort zone, I think it's important to realize that you have to actually go out of your comfort zone in Freshers Week. For me, I was just kind of sick of not having that much of a social life when I came to sixth form as an external, that I actually didn't really mind socializing. Honestly, if texting someone to go out for a second time works, you will not regret it. I became close with my best friend at uni that way. Again, most of the advice that I'm giving here is if you actually want a social life. Again, I'm stressing on this, in Freshers Week, if you actually want to have a memorable experience, you have to go outside of your comfort zone. By that I mean saying yes to everything. Say yes to side quests, say yes to going out, go out as much as you can in Freshers Week, because that's how you really make friends. Go to all those free fairs, try out new societies, try out new sports, go to the icebreakers, try new clubs, and just have a good time. When it comes to going out, go out as much as you can, but quick disclaimer, if you don't drink, that's okay. Be comfortable with your values and who you are, and if you don't want to go out, don't feel pressured to go out. Honestly, I didn't drink too much the first 2 times that I went out, and it was okay. I genuinely thought I would be peer pressured to drink a lot, but I wasn't. And literally no one actually cares. No one will force you to drink, and even if someone does, just don't give in to peer pressure. When you're going out, definitely know your limit. If you haven't ever drunk before, then don't just go straight into getting extremely drunk the first few times you go out. I definitely don't recommend going drunk the first few times you go out. I've always heard that it doesn't really work out best. For example, with my flatmates, there were 2 or 3 people who got blackout drunk the first few times we went out, and the rest of us didn't get that drunk. I think it did affect our dynamic quite a lot in the beginning, and that stayed out throughout the year. So don't get too drunk, but also let loose and be yourself. I'm gonna be honest, people do say that being around drunk people, if you're not drunk, isn't the best, and I agree. But I think that if you are able to enjoy music and dancing without drinking, then don't restrict yourself from going to the clubs just because you don't drink. If you're confident, if you can dance, if you can sing without any alcohol, then why stop yourself from going out? If you do drink and if you are planning to go out, definitely before. Now, I didn't know of any of this before I went to university. I hadn't gone to a club before, and I didn't realize how expensive drinks can be. But if you do go clubbing, definitely buy some drinks before and in your flat before you go out. They save you so much money. If you haven't drunk before university, start off with something like cider and then work your way upwards, find out your limit. Definitely don't go straight for vodka the moment you get there. And if you do get drunk, definitely be around people that you trust. When I went out with my flatmates the first time, I didn't want to drink too much because I didn't really know them. And going to clubs will be different in different cities. I go to the University of Warwick where everyone is a student, so it is actually much safer compared to like a city university. But yeah, just be mindful of who you're being drunk around. If you are someone who doesn't mind going out but definitely wouldn't choose to go out if they had to, please do go out during Freshers Week. Eventually everything will die down. People will stop going out as much, but during Freshers is the best time for you to go out and make some friends. Sorry, I had to change location because of the sun like burning my eyes. Okay, so the next thing that I advise is for you to sort out your accommodation first. Ideally, this should be done right after you choose your firm and your insurance universities, or if you've gone through clearing, that's probably a little bit different, but try to do it as soon as possible. Now, I got my first choice accommodation and I was quite happy with it. When you're choosing accommodation, consider the prices, which is really important. It's not just about whether or not you're spending more money or spending less money. It's actually going to be what kind of people you're going to be around as well. You don't want to be with people who have higher budgets than you when it comes to spending and not be able to go out with them. You don't want to be in an expensive accommodation unless you're willing to actually be spending a lot of money when you're going out or just having a higher budget. So it is important to know the price range in which you're booking your accommodation. Join the Warwick group chats. You'll find them through Facebook most of the time, and definitely the moment you find out your accommodation, join the accommodation group chat. What most freshers do, and what I experienced as a fresher as well, was that someone created a spreadsheet of all the flats in that accommodation, and we were all allowed to edit it, put in our names and our Instagrams according to our flat. I actually already knew 5 of my 7 flatmates before I even went to university, and this was very helpful when deciding what freshers events to book and the move-in dates of everyone. When it comes to accommodation, definitely the most important part is to know whether you want an ensuite or not. I went for a shared ensuite, which meant that I shared my toilet with only one other person, and by that I mean it was actually just available for both of us. So we had a door to walk in, and then there would be 3 doors, and then one was a toilet, one was my flatmate's room, and one was my room. I quite liked the situation. I felt that both of us were quite clean when it came to keeping the toilet, but I'm going to say that sharing a toilet really isn't that bad. I know that a lot of people are like, I definitely want an ensuite, but I don't think it's actually that worth it. Most of my friends at university had en-suites and I didn't really see the benefit. If anything, their toilets felt less clean because they didn't have to clean it. While if you're sharing a toilet with someone actually comes and cleans the toilet for you. Because I had a shared ensuite, we had someone clean the toilet once a week, when if you're sharing with more people, you have someone clean the toilet every single day. So it really isn't that bad in my opinion, unless you have like really uncontrollable bladder issues. When you move into your accommodation, immediately the first thing you should do is take photos of everything before you put your stuff in its right place. This is because universities will try to rip you off. For example, if there's a stain on the wall or if there's like a slight wall peel, they will try to claim that you did that. But if you have photos from the day that you moved in proving that it was already there before you moved in, they won't charge you for it. Something I definitely think that did make a difference when it came to my university experience was not decorating my room. I was just not that interested in decorating it. To be honest, I don't like putting photos of my friends or my family on my walls because I feel like it's just giving away too much of my privacy, and I don't want anyone who walks into my room to know my whole life. But most people in fact do get prints of their friends and their family because it makes them feel more at home. So if you are into that, definitely check out websites like Free Prints where they will give you like 40 photos printed for free, just because you're a university fresher. And decorating your room actually does help you like it more because you are going to be spending a lot of time in your room and you probably don't want to be like really sick of it. So decorate your room, put up some photos or posters or some string lights or some rugs. Make an effort to make it feel as much homely as you can because it does really look like a prison cell and most of them look the exact same. You need to make it feel like you actually enjoy being there. Something I think that was the only thing I really worried about before I went to university were my flatmates. flatmates. I had watched a lot of videos before going to university, and I had spoken to quite some people who I asked about their flatmates, and almost everyone said that they didn't get along with their flatmates. So I went into university not too worried about the fact that maybe I won't get along with my flatmates, and that's okay. But I did go there, and I still didn't get along with my flatmates, and I still didn't really enjoy not getting along with them. My flatmate situation wasn't that I just didn't get along with them, it was more like none of us got along with each other. No two people were friends, none of us really hung out with each other outside of being in our flat kitchen from time to time. And eventually I learned to accept that, and I made friends outside of my flat, but I always felt that it would have been nice to get along with my flatmates. I don't feel the best about the fact that we didn't get along, but I've come to terms with the fact that it's okay and I can make friends outside of my flat and I'll be okay. Most of the people I know at university didn't actually get along with their flat. It's not that they didn't get along, it's just that they tolerated each other, but they weren't friends. Except one friend whose flat got along really well, they were really close, they went out together all the time. Sometimes me and my other friend would go to that friend's flat and with her flatmates and go out with her flatmates. It was a nice way of feeling like I did get along with my flatmates despite the fact that I didn't. So if you don't get along with your flat, try to talk to flats around you or get to know a flat of your friend. You can become like an honorary flat member. It happens quite a lot and it will make a big difference in your university experience. However, if you don't get along with your flatmates, that's okay. There are other places that you can make friends and develop a social life, so it will make a difference, but there are other things that you can do to make sure you aren't missing out on everything. When it came to flats that get along, I tend to realize that they have some things that help them bond better. First of all, everyone really has to make an effort to get along. It could mean like sitting in your kitchen every single night before going out in Freshers Week and forcing yourself to have conversation. I think my flat didn't really have too much to talk about. We didn't really have any icebreaker activities. Some things you can do is like bring a pack of cards. Although we did have that, we never actually played no matter how many times I suggested it to my flat. But try to play games. That's definitely the best way to get along with your flat. I noticed that they would have a cleaning rota to make sure that although they're friends, they know that they are also flatmates and they don't just keep the place dirty all the time. Or they had scoreboards of who has the most law this week, or they would have a scoreboard of who lost their key the most amount of times throughout the first year. They would have a little calendar or a chart with all their birthdays so that they could all celebrate them together. And yeah, just try to make an effort to get along with your flatmates. I felt like I did make an effort, but I wish that other people also made just as much of an effort. I think there were things that I could have done more as well. I don't think my flatmates and I tried hard enough, but at the end of the day, I guess our personalities just didn't get along that very much, so it's okay, it is what it is. Whether or not you're friends with your flatmates, don't let them walk all over you. If you find that your place on the counter is starting to be really dirty, don't hesitate to just call them out on it, or text them and tell them to clean up their dishes, or take away their stuff from your place. Don't let them steal your food. I have heard people talk about flatmates stealing food and cutlery. Didn't happen to my flat. You're very civilized in that way, but if someone does do that, don't be afraid to call them out on it. Next thing I'm going to talk about is money. University is expensive. You're already spending money on your tuition and your accommodation. Apart from that, going out costs money, food costs money, socializing with your friends costs money. A lot of things cost money. Definitely don't go overboard with it. Make sure that you have a budget. I didn't have an exact budget on spending. I just tended to ask my question, do I really need this, before I bought anything? Now, don't overdo it like I did, but also make sure you're not spending too much. For example, something I did was I went shopping at Aldi instead of Tesco. Aldi was literally a 2-minute walk away from Tesco, and going to Aldi helped me save so much on money that I was able to spend more money on going out. I never even once ordered a takeout or bought a microwavable meal, which sounds kind of insane saying it now, but I think there are ways that you can definitely make easy meals without spending money. For example, pasta is a big one, or a salad, or pita bread and hummus and falafel, or sometimes just a sandwich, potato waffle. There are things that are also low effort but also low cost that are definitely better than ordering £20 takeout. The only times I did spend money on food was when I went out with my friends to eat, which I felt was way more worth ordering a takeout when I'm alone. When going on a night out, if you already know you're going, try to buy the ticket as soon as you can, like the moment they are released, because if you wait until later or try to buy resale tickets, they're just way more unnecessarily expensive. The next thing I'm going to talk about is lectures. I attended most of my lectures, although my best friend at uni might argue I didn't because she did show up to every single one of them. The only times I ever missed lectures were when they were really early in the morning and I struggled to get up in term 1 and 2. Well, only for half of term 2. But eventually I was able to make sure that I could wake up earlier and I was able to attend lectures even if they were early. People always say that lectures might not be the best use of your time, but I definitely think that they are worth going to, because if you don't go to your lectures, you literally have no timetable anymore. You are living a whole adult life without actually being an adult. You're still a student, you still have classes to go to, you still have assignments. Going to your lectures, especially the first few ones in your first term, are so important because they will tell you where everything is, how assignments work, how you can ask for an extension. Just all the basic information that you will need will be told in your first few weeks, so don't miss out on going to those. In fact, I made quite a few of my friends at lectures as well. Despite the fact that I didn't meet my best friend at a lecture, she also did the same course as me, so we did end up going to lectures and sitting next to each other all the time, so it definitely also helps cultivate friendships. The next thing I want to talk about is your academics. You are spending a lot of money on your university, so the least you can do is at least try to get a good grade. Try to stay on top of your work because you are on your own. No teachers will be there to hold you accountable. If you decide you don't want to study anymore, literally no one will stop you, but it will also be a huge waste of your money. You can ask your lecturers for help in assignments. You will be given a personal tutor, I think, for all courses at least, and you can ask the lecturers how you can do better in the assignment. You have no limitations on what to ask your lecturers. You can ask them literally anything. So make the use of that and let it help you get the best grade that you can. Going to the library can be helpful for studying as well, because when you're surrounded by a lot of people who are studying, it can help you study. However, I found that certain places in the library were not quiet zones, and those were definitely way more distracting than helpful. So make sure you know about the quiet zones when you're going to study in the library. My best friend and I at university literally didn't even know there were quiet zones in the library until our third term, which was kind of insane because they were so much more quiet and so much more better than the loud collaborative zones. However, I found that one thing that would stop me from going to the library was actually having to get out of my pajamas. Like, I started to become really lazy. But forcing yourself to get out of your pajamas and actually go to the library is helpful. I don't think it's important for you to look really put together all the time. Make sure you bring some casual trousers that aren't jeans to university that you feel comfortable going out with and comfortable enough to spend like a whole day in the library. When you do spend whole days in the library, definitely pack your food. It's better than buying food. It is so much better than buying food or buying food from the vending machines. Saves a lot of money and it's actually just way more healthier as well. Now, something you need to know when you go to university is that just because you're doing a degree doesn't mean you're guaranteed to get a job. It also doesn't mean that you're definitely going to want to get a job in the same field that you initially thought or the same field as your degree. And for that very reason, I think it's so important to take advantage of the free workshops, the free talks, and the free careers fairs that you will have at university, because they definitely helped me realize what career I wanted to go into and what job I wanted to go into, and also realize the other options that I have. Because when a plan A doesn't work, you have to have a plan B and a plan C. There will be so many networking events and so many free webinars. You will have to actually make an effort to find these though, because a lot of them do come in newsletters, but some of them won't. So following societies that might host these networking events or talks is definitely helpful. One thing I think is so important when you're coming to university is to know what your intention of coming to university is. Is it just a stepping stone in the next stage of your career? Is it to build a social life? Is it to network? Is it to make some money? They might all sound like not direct intentions to university. Like, most of you will probably think that the only reason you're going to university is to get an education, to get a degree. And the sooner you realize that, the better chances you will have of making friends that align with your values and your intentions, so that you don't get too sidetracked from the reason why you're at university. University is filled with a big pool of students who have incredibly different backgrounds, incredibly different upbringings, and the truth is, you're not going to relate to a lot of them. You will probably only relate to a really small amount of people in this huge pool. And while I think there is nothing wrong with going out of this pool, I also think it's important to make sure that you're not deviating from them because of peer pressure. I think it's important to differentiate between acquaintances, friends, and best friends, and not forget your values in the process. Keep reminding yourself of why you're there, and don't force yourself to be friends with someone who doesn't align with your values. Another Another way in which the intention of a university is important is you need to make sure you know whether or not your first year counts towards your final grade. And if you have the option of a study abroad or an intercalated year, do you want to consider doing these or do you not? Because if you do, your first year does count towards the option of you being able to take either of these options. The next thing is when making friends, there are different ways to make friends. Number one is your flatmates, and if you don't get along with your flatmates, you can find people at clubs, you can find people at societies. A lot of advice I heard from videos before I did my first year was to join a society, and I think I did that a bit later than I should have because I didn't enjoy any of the societies enough to join it in my first term. But I will not stress on how important it is, and I didn't take the advice that I was given, you have to join a society. It is just such a great way to make friends, even if you don't enjoy the sport or the hobby. Force yourself into one. Make sure you join one. A lot of sports will have beginner clubs. I definitely recommend sports as some of the societies you should join. They are one of the best ways to make friends. Don't be afraid to just say hi to people. It is not awkward, it's not weird. Trust me, everyone's going to be doing it. The difference between you making friends and you not making friends could just be you saying hi to someone that you're scared to say hi to. The last thing I want to talk about is you have to build a relationship with yourself. If you are someone who has always been surrounded by people, whether that's with siblings and family or with friends in school, you will be spending a lot of time alone at university, and if you're not used to it, you will fall into a hole of sadness if you don't try to build a relationship with yourself right now. There will be times where you will feel lonely, where you will feel homesick. Really, the only way to battle that is to start enjoying your own company, pick up hobbies you didn't have time for before, and find things to do by yourself. I went in through a phase during my first year of university where after my first term, which was spent with a lot of people, by the way, a lot of going out, barely any time ever in my room. In second term, when I was having to spend a lot of time alone in my room, I started to wish I was with other people all the time, and that's just not going to be possible, and it shouldn't be normal. You shouldn't be out all the time. You should also be able to find yourself and enjoy your own company. It started to affect everything, and you definitely don't want that to be happening. So build a relationship with yourself and just know that you are going to have times when you feel lonely. And if you're still in the summer before university, try to do things that you think that you might be able to do alone when you're at university. Literally anything that you can do with friends, you can do alone. Don't forget that. Don't let not having friends with you all the time stop you from doing something that you should. I also went to a lot of sport events by myself, and I think making friends is actually done best when you go to things alone, because that way you're forced to talk to people and you don't have like a friend to cling on to stop yourself from socializing with everyone else. It also makes you seem way more approachable when you're alone because you're just less intimidating, unlike if you're with a group of people. Unpopular opinion, going to things alone is actually the best way to make friends, I think. Lastly, if you are going into your first year of university and you're not sure of what to bring to your accommodation when moving in, then comment down below if you want another video explaining everything you need to bring to university. I will do the research and make a video if anyone wants it. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope this video isn't too long. That was all the advice that I wish I had gotten before I went to university, and things that I wish I would have done differently before I went into my first year. That's all from me now, and I'd really appreciate it again if you would consider subscribing. It would help me out so much. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments down below. If you want me to make any videos on anything else, drop them in the comments below. And I will see you next week. Thank you so much for watching, and bye.